it's the Fish Guy with Something Fishy, and on today's episode of Fish Guy TV, we're going to talk about some important steps you need to take with your pond to prepare it for fall and then the winter season as well. The first thing that we're going to do is we want to make sure our pond is protected from debris and leaves that are going to fall during this time of year. So typically you want to start that before the leaves come off the trees. Depending on where you live, maybe around September 15th or so is a good time to be able to be proactive and make sure that we keep the leaves and debris that are going to come into your yard out of your pond. The first step that we have to do is take a look at the plants that are within your system. The plants, if they're going to interfere with where we put our net, need to be cut back. All the plants can be cut back to about the water level. About an inch or two above water, you can just take some shears and cut those back. In this particular pond, it's not necessary because our net will be higher than the plants themselves. The other thing that you'll notice with this pond, there happens to be monofilament line. This is to help keep the birds away from the fish. If you need to, you can go ahead and remove this if you're going to net it for the fall. In this case, we can net right over this. Since on this pond, we've determined to leave the monofilament line in place and that the plants are low enough that we don't have to cut them back, we can move on to netting. I also want to note that when we're netting the pond, you can continue to leave your water feature running. This is not the time of year to shut it down yet. We're just netting the pond or the main area of the pond to prevent leaves from getting into it. So in the process of netting the pond, it's very important that we create a frame structure on top of the pond so that the net doesn't implode into the pond. We can do that very easily out of 3/4 inch PVC pipe. Okay, so now that we've constructed the frame, there's a couple things you want to make sure of. Number one, that you can move the frame and put pressure on it in any direction. It's completely freestanding, so that when the wind comes along or the net sits on top of it, it's not going to move. The last thing you want is come December, having to come out here and mess with this frame. So spend the right time to do it right in the beginning so that it'll last you all winter. When selecting a net, you just want to use something that's inexpensive, something that's going to last one season and just can be replaced the following year. A small mesh net size like this, where the holes are about 1/4 inch square, is completely fine and will work really nicely for your pond. In addition to the net, you want to have some garden stakes like this to be able to secure the net throughout the edges of the pond. Now you can see the pond after it's been netted. Notice that the framework is going to prevent the net from falling into the pond. It's also very important to remember that the stakes along the edges of the pond are in place every couple of feet so that as the wind blows leaves that are already grounded, they don't get blown into the edges of the pond. Now that the netting service is complete, you can continue to enjoy your pond while it's operating throughout the fall season. Keep in mind these important facts and tips for keeping your pond netted and why we do that this time of year. If you need any help with your netting service, remember Something Fishy can come to your home and provide the service for you. If it's something that you'd like to do on your own, always visit us in our retail store and we'll help you with every step along the way. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today, and remember to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and at somethingfishyinc.com. So now that the pond is completely netted for the fall, the pond netting service is complete. If you're interested in more details on how to cut back your plants, check out our winter prepperization session on Fishy.